I'll post a link to Discord if you're interested.
So game 2 of the Newcomers tournament in January. This one is between Vampirus, Spryfly, Antario, and Scott Call. Scott Call won his round 1 game. None of the other players were able to, though, so he's the only player on a point so far. Alongside me is Black Magic.
Hey there, how you doing? So taking a look at this map, what do you think about it?
Lots of very high prices. It's going to be a struggle to get to upgrades. There's a couple of good scavenger spots. Well, there's one really okay scavenger spot in the south, only with lows though. There's all of that in the top left of the map. There's a couple of interesting founds coming out. Spryfly in the middle of the map. That's not what I would have chosen. I think I like Vampirus has found quite a lot, and also Antario has found quite a lot as well. Scott Call may be looking to see what he can get, and I would kind of expect a scavenger to come out of him, maybe in this southern region here. I'm not exactly sure. Now he goes robot instead, so we got 3 robots in an expansive.
Interesting. So that is a really interesting robotic location for Scott Call. I can understand. I mean, the good thing about there is you can go straight into wind later on if you want to take advantage of this power colony.
Yeah, he's next to this silicon as well, so I almost thought it might have been a power robot to begin with, but I guess prices are just a little bit too high for that. Well, they're a lot too high.
Yeah, you can't really go power robot right now with steel at $126,
Yeah.
Or you're just going to feed money to Antario and some of the other people that are making steel. Now,
that's a very interesting move from Scott Call. He just mutinied away Vampirus's iron like halfway across the map. Not sure how I feel about that. It might be good. Iron's $69.
you know, I'm not sure that I'm okay with that. I don't know. I mean, you're right that
it's going to cost him a lot.
Super high. That's going to cost him a lot in terms of shipping. It'll hurt in terms of debt. Well, you know what? It's not as far as I thought, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, Vampirus actually took it back. She's like, nope, I need that iron. And takes it back. There's a couple more iron claims coming down from Antario as well. He's taken the 2 mediums just next to Vampirus's base, so iron's in very high demand in this game, and it's not that surprising. It's kind of scarce, and there are 3 robots in an expansive.
So let's go back to Spryfly, because I know that you had originally said, hey, I'm not really sure I agree with that that founding location. I also have not figured out whether I like it or not. The one thing that that's good about it is, since you have all of these really high prices, you're going to need a lot of those base resources, and so having this in a central location where you don't have to ship something really far is good, because he has good access to, you know, they are 2 low iron, but that's plenty in order to get 3 steel mills going. You've got water right next to your base, so you don't have to ship that really far. The aluminum's there, the carbon's right there. I don't know that it's necessarily too bad.
Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I like it. He's got enough stuff around that he can make some money. It's an interesting decision that he made to go for the aluminum to the east rather than the high one just to the south. I guess he didn't see that one. But apart from that, it's pretty good. Scott Call is going really hard on this iron. Look at what he's done in the southwest. He's put a solar panel down alongside his 2 iron mines for the adjacency, which is really quite creative. I'm a big fan of that. Gets a lot more iron. He's getting 6 a second, of which 3 is surplus. So he's definitely going pretty hard on those early resources.
You know what? However, I do like the creativity, except for if he had just claimed the iron to the left, you would get your 6 a second, and you wouldn't have to put an extra lane over there.
That's very true. I mean, yeah, that's very true.
I do like the creativity. That is really cool. I think that Scott Call is going to be going for a power play very shortly, because there's another. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Scott Call was not the person to take the silicon right nearby.
Yeah, so that's Spryfly. Yeah, and that's a decent way to ship that. And I'm not sure how good that silicon's going to be for a while, at least. I think there may be better things to be making than that. The glass is kind of profitable, no, not that profitable. The main thing at the moment about this game is that power is climbing and shows no real signs of abating either. I'm a little bit concerned for Antario, who has really no way to make any power, certainly until he hits HQ3. And just in general, making power is kind of awkward this game because carbon's at 39, silicon's at 57.
And it's going to keep climbing too.
Yeah,
for the silicon. As people go into
down.
that, then it becomes even less profitable. It's time. I think it's time for Vampirus to think about. Well, they're still making 39 a second at the moment, but the glass right there is not going to be the most profitable very shortly.
Yeah, that in fact, yeah, it's extremely unprofitable right now. It's losing $45 a second. Antario decides that, and I like this decision by the way, he decides that steel is not the way he's going to win this game because of the power price, and he's turned those 2 steel mills into solar panels, which he absolutely needed to do because he was in real danger of falling into D levels of debt. Scott Core with the 2 solar panels along with the one that's next to the iron mines as well. So he's probably okay on power for the time being. But again, it's still at 360 and Vampirus really doesn't have any power at all at the moment. She's going to be really struggling to stay afloat.
So let's take a look at Antario again. This is an instance where the found was actually, you have the same sort of thing like Spryfly, where you're right next to aluminum, you're not too far away from iron. There are 2 silicon tiles right next to Antario. What I would have loved is, instead of claiming those 2 random blank tiles for your solar panels, you would take those 2 silicon, mine them for a while, and then turn them into the solar panels instead. That way you still have the flexibility to go back to something. Right now the configuration is a little bit awkward. And the other thing I'd like to point out is the patent lab that was just mutinied. Unfortunately, Antario is not going to have enough money to really defend that.
Yeah, I mean, he's
everybody else that wants it.
Yeah, I mean, he does, like, nobody else has a cooldown apart from Vampirus, who could shut it down if she wanted to, but doesn't seem to be interested. It looks like he might get that superconductor, and that's going to be really important. Superconductor, at the moment, super good. Scott Cole was after it. That was why he mutinied the patent lab away, but it got re-mutinied again, and he's not going to be able to get that after all. He does, however, get to HQ4, and I would expect to see some more power come down in some way, and there's more solar panels coming down in the southwest, and he's got the silicon to support that as well. So I think he's going to be in a really good position to pay off a bunch of this debt. Antario, though, is also paying off a bunch of his debt and is shortly about to make power money, or he would at least if the day had lasted a little bit longer. He's going to have to wait until tomorrow. But he is going to make that power money as long as he can protect these solar panels from prying eyes.
And it looks like, I mean, this is a map with no geothermals, and carbon is at $75, so this is an instance where that superconductor is actually going to be really good. The only negative is all these prices are so expensive that it's still a little bit, I mean, Antario will get the upgrade to HQ3 pretty soon, but I mean, he's a little far back. You could be doing something like Vampirus, for instance.
There is actually one geotherm on the map, and Vampirus has claimed it.
Oh, there is. Okay.
It's sort of in the southeast.
Okay.
But Vampirus's debt is really troubling. Power now at 400 and still rising. Well, it was still rising, and then day broke, and it's not rising anymore. But Antario, I'm pretty certain now, is going to be making power money. And a lot of power money as well, as long as his solar panels aren't shut down.
Antario is now making power money. What I'd like to see Vampirus do is, there is the Cook the Books available.
Oh,
you can tread water for a little while, buying some Cook the Books until you can get your power under control. The other thing you can do is consider doing something like, that silicon mine is, $78. It's not too bad in terms of power. I take that back. I'd still keep that on.
So Scott Call using the power surge on the solar panels of Vampirus to try and keep her in D debt, but I think Antario is the bigger issue here. He's putting a third solar panel down, and that's really greedy. That's such a huge target for black market. I'm really surprised he's been allowed to keep those up for as long as he has, with that superconductor bonus as well.
So, what did Antario do? What did Antario do with all of his claims? So we've got a third solar panel.
Yeah, he doesn't actually have that many. He's also got 3 still in the bank that he hasn't used yet. But he's only HQ3, and that's the main problem that he has right now. He still has 3 claims to use.
Yes.
And really needs to use them quite soon. There's a bunch of things that are quite good. There's some more water, which he's going to claim as well, in the northeast of him. And also, I'd like to see maybe a couple of farms or a couple of reactors or something like that.
Yes,
Go down to take advantage of that water production.
And Ontario has the single farm, which I cannot endorse at this particular point. Don't worry, Ontario. I'm guilty of that all the time. So
yeah,
at
it's
this
losing
point,
$35 right now.
yes, at this point it's losing $35. Although there is a water surplus, which helps out super well. There is one particular black market item that I am looking at right now that I am extremely surprised that nobody is using, and that would be the underground nuke is still 3K.
Yeah, so somebody used one. I'm trying to. I can't remember whether somebody has actually used one or not. Oh, there goes an underground nuke. Spryfly's silicon
exactly
gets taken out. Oh, and in fact, Vampirus is so that's what Scott Call is doing. So I assume that he used both of those on the silicon that's just next to his own silicon production. Vampirus now has a trace, and Spryfly has a low.
So, interestingly enough, Antario is going after Spryfly. Now, there are 2 particular issues. Unless you can make the buy, don't go after somebody, and Spryfly has the money to defend himself, so that's just kind of wasting your time. The bigger thing is, if you have that money, you need to take the upgrade instead. You're an HQ3 expansive, and you need to try to rush to get to 5, so you can take advantage of all of these really high prices. Last thing I would like to say about Ontario is, this patent lab has been going for a while, but patents are so expensive at this point. So virtual reality is queued up. That's 19K just to be able to do virtual reality. Slant drilling is $26,000 right now. These are the
actually if he got rid of the virtual reality out of his queue, sold the chems and sold some of his iron down, he could upgrade right now.
Yes.
Like that's how costly that is for him.
So you always want to, before you put a patent lab down, you always want to take a look at what the price of chemicals are. It's ditto for some of the other labs that you can do. You just want to make sure that the chemicals aren't $320 a second. Now, fortunately, nobody can really penalize him at the moment because carbon is so expensive, but if somebody were to build a patent lab, do carbon scrubbing, then scrap it or something like that, then, I mean, look at all the money they could be making.
Yeah, there's so much money to be made on World right now, and I would imagine we're probably not going to see any off-world markets for a long time in this game. Off-world launch is really mediocre. The best is chems at 490, but obviously chems on World are so high right now as well, so the best profit is oxygen at 24,000, which really isn't worth it given that it's going to cost so much money for anyone in this game to put an off-world down. $100,000 at the moment.
So, Ontario, when you review this game, just remember HQ3 versus HQ5, you're at such a big deficit in terms of the number of claims that you have. It's better to try to just rush all the way through, particularly, the patent lab really slowed you down in terms of expanding, but in order to get the full benefit of being expansive, you need to get to HQ5 as quickly as you can, because that's where you have all of those additional claims.
Yeah, he's finally got to 4, but he's got to 4 after everyone else gets to 5. And there's just a bunch of things that he's done that's slowed him down there. including building a pleasure dome, which normally I would be in hugely favourable towards. But this pleasure dome is costing him a bunch of money now. With power at 250, it's only getting 145 in profit. So I mean, there's something to be said for that, given that like he's got the 4 solar panels down with superconductor, so he's basically making that money back that he's spending on power. But even so,
now I will say, to Antario's credit, if you look at the stock prices, he's an HQ4 expansive, making power money at the moment, and has roughly the same stock price as everybody else. Now, if he can just focus instead on making sure to keep upgrading and put all his production out, he could really race ahead, even though he's still HQ4 at this point.
Well, he's got the upgrade right now if he wants it. He's got what, an extra 2,000 or so as well to play with. He's not used all of his HQ4 upgrades yet, so yeah, he needs to get that stuff down. But he might be in a good position in this game with the expansive late game bonus against 3 robots. I mean, it might be okay. He's got the patents as well. He's not gone into any optimizations, which I would really like to see at some point from these players. Scott Call has got an optimization center, but he's the only one with prices at this magnitude. It's really, really good to have those things optimized. We're going to see some perpetual motion from Spryfly. Power has crashed though now, so there's not a whole lot of value in that. And Antario does get to 5, so he might be in a good position in this game. It's Scott Call with the cash lead at the moment. He's got 200k in cash and resources. He's obviously, I guess he's thinking about an off-world, but he's got the 100 electronics there, he's got the glass production. He can build an off-world basically whenever he wants, but I don't think I like the off-world.
I would not go into an off-world at this point. You're talking about 150k. I do like what Scott Call is doing in terms of being able to at least optimize or use an optimization lab, even though it's really expensive if you optimize some chemicals first.
He's also going into Spryfly right now, which I also like. That is the most tempting target. With that amount of debt and the cheapest stock price. I guess Vampirus as well has a relatively cheap stock price, but I think Scott Call going into Spryfly here is going to be a reasonably valuable subsidiary with all of those resources relatively close by. Antario is building an off-world, and again, I mean, it's slightly more understandable for an expansive player. The steel is much less of a problem because you only need 200 of it. But even so, I don't think I like it. It's just not that profitable. It's going to be fuel launches at 26,000 profit, so really you need, 3 launches before that off-world even thinks about paying for itself. And just the amount of stuff that you put into that at this point. Maybe if he can secure his own stock, and I think that's what I would do if I were him at this point, is just buy the rest of his stock, because he's very, very well set up to make money in the late game.
So let's talk about the targeting in this particular game. So you like the decision by Scott Call to go after Spryfly as opposed to, say, Vampirus or Antario. Why particularly that target?
I think the first choice would probably have been Antario, thinking about it. But I think Spryfly's fine. I think given that he's struggling, he's in that amount of debt, which is sort of on the cusp of being a problem for him. Isn't quite a problem just yet. But just the fact that he has stuff around to be, he's going to be able to make a little bit. Although he doesn't have any carbon, that's a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spryfly has a little bit of carbon.
Maybe that's not such a good decision then.
Spryfly has one small carbon in that little crater.
In the crater.
So let's talk about this, because this is something that comes up a lot in terms of, hey, I've got all this money, I don't know who to target. In this particular instance, I would have been targeting Antario instead of Spryfly for a couple of reasons. Number one, you have 3 robotics here and 1 expansive. The expansive has so many more claims than everybody else, and off-world prices are fantastic. The second thing is, sure, Antario built these off-worlds that are not as profitable. They're going to continue to get more profitable as they go. And since there's so much money committed to those off-worlds, he's at a disadvantage to be able to defend himself. So going with Antario with all of these claims that are adjacent to his base and all of this money to be made, I think Antario would be my first choice in terms of who to target and try to take them out quickly as opposed to Spryfly. Spryfly isn't necessarily a bad target. However, there are no patent advantages for Spryfly. I mean, they perpetual motion and thinking machines now.
Yeah.
But
So Vampirus has gone into Antario at least a little bit. The power surge from Scott Call on the electrolysis reactors will shut him down a little bit, but I'm a little bit concerned that nobody else is being aggressive here, and Spryfly does go into a bit of Antario as well. He really needs to defend himself. He just needs to buy those 2 stock rather than to go into Vampirus, I think, at this point, because just in the late game he's going to be making so much money.
yes.
It's just going to be really difficult for other players to overcome. Vampirus, again, just buying that 5th stock. Scott Call as well, I should note, by the way, is reasonably close to the buy on Spryfly, or he was until he paid off a bunch of debt.
No,
what did he
didn't
do?
pay it. He
Built an off-world. Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Okay.
That I believe was a big mistake.
Yeah.
The reason that that's a mistake is because the off-world for Scott Call is over $100,000 just to put that up, and your launches, in order to pay that back, you've got 30k launches. So it's going to take you, you've got to have at least 2 launches in order to pay that back, which means you're talking about 2 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your stock is also vulnerable to somebody else buying into you, such as Spryfly. So I don't really like that move. There is a boost, which was great. But I don't really like the move. It's interesting because Antario is kind of coming from behind, and because prices are so fantastic on World, and because of those early patents
so much
that we
money.
didn't necessarily like, now it's actually decent.
Yeah, he's making a huge amount of money, and he's going to get the buy very shortly, I think, on Vampirus, and I think if he manages to do that, which I think he will, I think he's going to take this game without too many more problems. He's going to get 3 of his own stock back. He's going to get a huge stock price bump, and I think the fact that other people suddenly are going to have to make $1 million to buy his stock just makes him the overwhelming favorite for this game.
So so taking a look at Spryfly, just to look at what Spryfly can do at this point. Unfortunately, there's not too much. If you look at some of the production, I don't think Spryfly has noticed that those glass furnaces are losing 109 a second.
Yeah, they're really unprofitable, and also the carbon-based stuff that he's got a lot of carbon-based stuff. Like, they're barely profitable. Like, the chems are barely profitable. The electronics aren't profitable, even though they've been optimized.
And Tario, by the way, is going to get the buy on Vampirus.
Yeah, very soon.
But
right now, in fact.
Yes, and as soon as that happens, it doesn't really matter. Antario is going to be able to pay off a lot of debt as soon as daytime comes with a superconductor. And how much is that? 4,740 a second.
What did he just spend his money on? Did he spend his money on 2 mutinies rather than to buy Vampirus and take the?
Oh, really?
I think he did. I mean, he's got a bunch of money in cash and resources. He's got more than he needs to kill Vampirus, but he really needs to do it soon, because it's just going to be so profitable. It's going to be such a profitable subsidiary. Like, he needs to be making this buy right now. I guess he's waiting for these 2 launches.
However,
there we go.
In the fact that he did not buy Vampirus, Vampirus bought 2 stock of Scott Call, so he just got 2 free stock.
Maybe that's why he waited. In which case, that's next level. I'm a big fan of that.
I don't know if that was the reason that he waited. I'm wondering if, what the first thing that happened is Antario decided to mutiny Vampirus' off-world. So spent all of that money to do it. However, Scott Call had a mutiny saved up, so Antario had the off-world for about 5 seconds before Scott Call took it away. So that ended up being wasted money. What the better solution is, just buy the subsidiary, and then you get that off-world anyway.
Yep. Oh my goodness, look at the money that Ontario is making on power. 5,000 a
Yes.
second, falling now to 4,000 a second with that solar flare.
And
But Scott Call's number is up, I think, in this game. I don't think there's any way that he's going to be able to overcome the deficit in just about every conceivable way that he's behind to Ontario right now. I think
would also
Ontario's going to get his revenge from the last game and take this one.
I would also like to point out, though, in that one single day for Ontario, because everybody else had gotten out of power, what happened was Ontario put those solar panels
Oh my
down and
gosh.
went from a negative $211,000 in debt to making power money within a day.
And he made a lot of power money as well. He made like 100k off the
He
back of
made-
that.
He made a solid almost 5,000 a second for
Yeah.
that entire day, which was unreal.
Yeah, it's about to get turned on again, and yeah, he's making 6,500 a second with the first tickets, falling very rapidly as you would expect, but very soon he's going to be making power money again, and it's going to be enough power money to see him to the bye and to get him the win in game number 2 as soon as he hits the big red button, which I kind of want him to do right now. Please
So,
do it.
So would you say, Terror, would you say that this is an okay spot if you didn't quite have the money yet? Could you sell out of your stock in order to...
I think maybe you could. I don't quite know why. Yeah, there we go. Because yeah, time matters, folks. You need to be hitting this button when it's big and red and is telling you to hit it. But well played, Ontario. He eventually, and it's worth pointing out. I mean, you mentioned it in commentary, but it's worth pointing out and just underlining exactly how far behind Ontario was in this early game. Like, he was HQ3 when everyone else in the game was HQ5. He was making patents, he was putting that pleasure dome down, he was focusing on power. I mean, power was really good, but he wasn't upgrading when he really needed to be upgrading. And he wasn't really punished for it. Well, he wasn't punished at all for it because he ended up winning the game. But I mean, it was well played to get all of those advantages for the late game, but I feel that there are certainly ways in which he could have been punished very easily.
So what I was thinking is, can you imagine if instead of going after that patent lab, if Ontario had just raced to HQ5 first? Then you have so many more tiles that you could use, where you could spare a patent lab, you could get some carbon, you could put down your chem labs and actually be able to support it, and he still most likely would have been able to be the first person to a superconductor or something like that, and then he wouldn't necessarily have to dig himself out of the giant hole. That being said, it was a fantastic job in order to dig himself out of that hole, identify Vampirus as the one to go for, and to be able to pull it back. The other thing that I would like to mention is Scott Hall was doing extremely well in this game for a long time, and Scott Hall went into Spryfly. Now let's say that Scott Hall had continued going to Spryfly. When you go for 5 stock of somebody, you want to make sure that you can finish them. Spryfly was essentially dead at that point. All Scott Call had to do was focus on killing off Spryfly, but instead Scott Call went for the off-world market, which was over 100k. Without that off-world market, that 100k was almost enough to finish the buy on Spryfly, and then you have a subsidiary that is making you so much money because they can rotate into whatever is profitable. So
we mentioned that at the time, and I think that was a pretty key mistake in this game. Another thing I'd like to mention is that optimizations this game, looking at the optimizations of the screen, the only person who's made any real significant optimizations at all, Scott Call. With prices this high, you need to be optimizing, folks. I know chems were $300, but just like 1 pip in everything, which is basically what Scott Call did, does so much work for you. With basically all of the prices in this game above $100 and some above $200.
And in that particular case, if you're, yes, chemicals were absolutely expensive, but if you optimize chemicals, then you can overcome some of that. Just make your first optimization into chemicals if those are the most profitable, or, put it into whatever's profitable, and then just do one of a couple of different things, just like Tara had said.